Hello again, everybody. I'd like to start where I left off of the earlier screencast, the one for Monday, which I hope you've seen by now, and this one will take it a little bit further. So you may have missed a few things if you haven't watched the first screencast of the week. This is the second. And I'm going to start with a really common type of deduction, modus ponens. And I'm going to give you a little example here. If you donate a kidney, everybody loves you and you're a total hero. But try donating 5 kidneys and suddenly everyone is yelling and the police get called. Okay, notice, first of all, if you're thinking about natural order that we discussed last week, there's a premise. We'll label it. Try donating 5 kidneys, and then there's your punchline. So this is a pretty simple, basic deduction. Premise, conclusion. Well, not a logical conclusion, but an illogical conclusion. So the logical conclusion would be I guess it would work this way. So a very basic modus ponens would flip things around a bit. Let me show you. If you donate a kidney, that becomes the premise. Everybody loves you, you're a total hero. That would be the conclusion. That's logical. It makes sense. Of course, it's not funny. It's just logic. So to turn into a joke, they had to add an illogical conclusion. In other words, a punchline, right? So I hope that helps in looking at the deductive structure of humor and humans. And you'll see that jokes and arguments have the same structure. That's not an accident. We think this way. We make sense of things this way. And deductions weren't invented after people started thinking. They're just a way of describing how people often think. So keep that in mind. And you want to try it out now that you've done Tuesday night's discussion posting and response to a classmate. There you go. You'll do a little bit more of that for Thursdays. And of course, the reading questions will be on the appeals on the modules page under useful terms that I mentioned Tuesday. And then you'll also see a couple of assignments. I'm going to start with the first one, which you can ignore if you want to, just for extra credit. But hey, who doesn't like extra credit? It's going to start with a deductive joke. I'll show you the, now you have to go over the instructions carefully. This is open book, so you can have that chapter open on deductive arguments. You do have 60 minutes, just like the regular reading questions of the week. And here's the joke. and you have to find the stated premise and the punchline, pretty easy, but also the obvious premise, the thing that's unspoken because it's so obvious. Be sure to catch that. And then just get your answer in there. Elsewhere on the assignments page, and here comes something a little bigger, is the first multi-paragraph assignment of the class. And it's called the comic argument analysis. 3 paragraphs, not too much, due Monday. Kind of a micro essay. And you'll have, by this time, known your way around deductions a little bit better than you did at the start of the week. And, of course, the useful terms glossary as well as the chapter. And just keep those paired together throughout the class with the readings. And I give you a kind of a step-by-step cookbook approach on what goes into which chapter, which goes into what paragraph. Slap me silly. Okay, so the first paragraph tells you what should go in there, and obviously you're going to need to look at a 4 to 7 minute video clip. So be careful that you've opened more than one browser page. Let me show you how to do that because this is important. Yeah, all I did was copy the URL. Now, with the actual assignment open, you can head on down the modules page, look at useful terms, and then duplicate again for whichever of the stand-up comedians video clips you're going to use, because you need to quote 1 or 2 jokes. Let me head on back there to the assignment. Here you go, see? And you're going to have to identify the same things I mentioned on that extra credit assignment. And then we get to the appeals, of course, the useful terms glossary. Now you got to submit this as a Microsoft Word document. Don't go out and buy Microsoft Word. Just use Google Docs, and the file menu will allow you to save a Google Docs version of what you've written as Microsoft Word, and then you can submit it here. You can upload it to the assignments page, and you're all good to go. So, just to recap quickly, this week's discussion, as normal, like we have every week, reading questions again, normal. Once in a while, we're going to have some extra credit. There'll be 3 opportunities. This is the first one. And that's optional, of course, but this isn't optional. This is an actual assignment due Monday. Have a great week, and if you have any questions I haven't answered here, feel free to head over to the discussions page, go to the class chat room, and ask your question, and I'll be happy to answer. Have a great